Welcome to Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things, the podcast show. I am your host, Carrie Roberts, and I am so grateful to have yet another wonderful guest, this time calling in from Singapore. She is the Chief Marketing Officer for Greater Asia for HP Inc., Siew Ting. I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome.
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited you're here. I know it took us a little while to get this connected with all the holidays, but you're here and we are talking about how to use purpose to build brands and teams. I've been following you on social media for a while and just love, how you talk about leadership and branding. And so wanted to kind of have you here. And I wanted to start off with you kind of personally. And when you were young, how did you define purpose versus how would you define it now for yourself?
Yeah, I think to be really frank, I don't really get a good sense of what purpose is when I was young. I'm a Singaporean, ethnically born Chinese, come from a really humble, middle class family. So I guess when I was young, I was really taught, to really abide by a couple of Asian values, which is, really about passion, humility, and also, working really hard. So I guess that's kind of a little bit of the starting point of, what purpose is really all about. I guess my first, encounter with really, learning about purpose and hence in the process developing purpose and understanding what purpose is when I was in Diageo, which is the leading alcohol premium drinks company. And as one of the top 200 leaders around the world, I was very fortunate to be given a coach that really bring me, through a journey of discovering, and learning about purpose, and in the process, defining what purpose is. So I think in a nutshell, I would really define purpose, which is really, by the famous Simon Sinek, right? Purpose is really why you exist, why human exists, what makes you tick, what makes you get out of bed, what makes you do certain things. And through the journey of learning about purpose, developing my own purpose, I think purpose will be defined as a great intersection of three things for me. First is really about what your passion is all about, what you really love. And then I think the second intersection of that will be, what are your skills? What are you really good at? And then the third thing is, what do you do for a living? When the three of them come together and intersect really well, and that will make a fantastic definition of your own purpose. So that will be how I actually define purpose.
I love that, and I think it's interesting, like you said, it was more kind of these values set, but now it's a little bit different, and it can involve your passions, your skills, and where you work. And I agree. I love that definition. And I think it's something that's important for us personally, but also obviously for organizations as well. Now, professionally, you've worked for companies like Unilever, Mars, and of course now you're currently with HP Inc. When you're joining a new organization and you're leading a team and a brand, what comes first? Is it about helping your team kind of find the purpose, or is it about clarifying the purpose of a brand and why?
I don't think they're sequential.
Mm.
I would say that they are both equally important. And often than not, I use a methodology which really, brings together what the brand purpose and the company purpose is, and then working with my teams to really bring alive, the team purpose or the team manifesto. Because of the journey that I've gone through personally, finding my own purpose and actually building lots of iconic, brands with this methodology. I have been practicing, this journey of whenever I go into a new company or new role, I will always start with, sharing with my team what my own personal purpose is, and almost self-declaration, and really letting them really understand what my own personal purpose is. Then we'll spend a lot of time really, make understanding what the brand purpose is and almost making it personal. So, how does this brand purpose, how do you understand about this brand purpose? How does it resonate with you on an individual level? And what is your individual impact as an individual and a leader? And then with that, we come together as a team to define, okay, so what does the team really stand for in terms of our manifesto and our purpose? And I realized that through multiple trial and error, this methodology or this process, this journey really, really works, because it not only helped the team really understand what they come to work for, but also what the individual impact that they can actually bring to the table. I would say that a great example would be the most recent, example in HP. The last 3-4 years I've been with, HP initial purpose is really about, create technology that have amazing engineering experience. Its tagline is about keep reinventing. So I think 4 years ago when I joined this company, I was really clear about connecting and defining what keep reinventing mean in the Asia consumers, and also what keep reinventing mean to the Asia marketing team. What do we want to stand for? What will be the headlines after 2 years on the newspaper that this team really stands for? Is really about standing about for keep reinventing, unleashing your own potential. So that journey and this whole process seems to work through trial and error.
I get so excited. I think, I really enjoy, it just already just shows in these few minutes we're talking just how you are as a leader and really kind of bringing people's full selves to work and say, how do you kind of find your own purpose within what we're doing? And I assume, that creates a better bond with your team. It makes the company do well. And that's so great to hear that you're really kind of working with them in a sense individually, as well as pushing this for the brand. So I think that's wonderful. And it brings me to, again, thinking about this idea of purpose and brand as a whole. I personally think brand has a lot of creativity and storytelling that is associated with it. But many times we'll see in business and a lot of corporations that sometimes there's more of an emphasis on the data or the science. So, how does the blend of art and technology work together? And why do you think both of these things matter when it comes to purpose and brand for an organization?
Yeah, I think you can't do just the art of it, nor you
Mhm.
can't do just the science of it. I think marketing and developing brands is really about blending both art and science. But let me take a step back and really kind of articulate what I really mean. I think marketing, the craft of marketing in this rudimentary form, it's really about building brands that stands the testament of time. And to build brands that stands the testament of time, you really need to understand human behaviors, human
Yes.
motivation, and really look through insights, and use data and hypothesis to really find universal human truths. And that in itself, the journey of discovering that is not just art, it's really a science behind it, because you might start with an hypothesis, but in order to make the hypothesis matter in a scale, you really need data to really prove your hypothesis. And also brand matters. Brands that actually become iconic, at the end of the day, has to somehow deliver something, right? Which is really to deliver brands value and deliver business impact and growth. And that is where the science of it comes into play, which is how data, how technology can actually prove your hypothesis, and in result actually enable you to build brands that has business impact and really stands the testament of time. So for me, brand purpose and build brands that stand the testament of time needs a blend of both art and science. And I think the best marketeers needs to actually have both art and science, and also the brands that are really iconic, those brands that you see out there, actually utilize both arts and science to really deliver the outcome. So that would be how I actually, look at things in terms of this question that you asked.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, again, like you said, a good kind of marketing team is able to have both of those things and bring those to life as well. And kind of along that, I've been following you on LinkedIn. You had a LinkedIn post that you wrote a little while ago, and you said people care more about the values of the brand, how the brand is going to help the world and make their lives better, not just the benefits a product has to offer. Can you elaborate and talk about what you mean by that? And how does a brand figure out what does it value, and showcase that to create connection with the consumer or the customer.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the really basic human truth, because when you're marketing to consumers, at the end of the month, you're marketing to multiple human beings.
Yes.
Right? And that goes back to the very deep rooted point about, a purpose. And, while we buy into product and benefits, and this is important as part of the package, great compelling brands are rooted on a fantastic purpose, and the purpose is a democratization or a reflection of the values of the brands. And I would say that how the question that you had, how do brands build a great purpose and great compelling purpose, and how do they really show that? I think, you know, I don't think I'm really an expert in that yet. I'm still learning on an everyday basis. But I would sum up that great brands that are great, that are iconic, actually really start with a very universal, scalable, universal human truth that is wide enough, that applies sufficiently to around the world. And with a great universal human truth, then it's really the craft of the marketeers to really come in and actually develop what is the compelling brand purpose. And this compelling brand purpose needs to continue to stay very consistent. So obviously, how it shows up in terms of your brand storytelling, the brand semiotics, how you actually talk to consumers. It needs to show up like a human being. But I
Yes.
think what is even more important is, especially with what the world is going through now, you need to be culturally relevant and you need to be contextually relevant. So how does this purpose, continue to evolve, with times? And that is where the magic of the creativity of the marketeers come into play. To put this into a real example, I would actually want to talk about a brand that I have worked with, and it's super iconic brand. A brand that I've been absolutely passionate about, which is the brand Johnny Walker.
Hmm.
So it's a whiskey blended brand, Johnny Walker, by the Diageo company. I worked on the brand for a good 5-6 years. And the brand actually is rooted in with a fantastic universal human truth, which is to inspire, a man wants progress. Whether you're a man or a female, progress is literally a universal human truth. And the brand purpose is Johnny Walker exists to inspire personal progress.
Mm.
Yeah. So it shows up in terms of its communication, its icon, its keep walking tagline, but the purpose doesn't change. But how we actually manifest progress in the context in China or in Asia and in the West is culturally different. So it really goes back into the art of the marketing, which really understanding how does this progress manifest in a way that's culturally relevant. How do we talk to consumers in a way that connect with them in terms of progress? And that is how great brands and great brand purpose can really come to life. So underpinning this, it's just the ability of the marketeers to be constantly curious, to constantly
Yes.
empathetic and really listen to what the consumers are really telling you on a daily basis.
Yeah, I like what you're saying about how kind of this idea of purpose is actually quite broad, but it's consistent, but it's adjusted potentially where the location is. And that's really how you still kind of keep it the same, but adjust it because each country has a different feel and a different thing that's okay, and different types of people and different expectations. So I like that a lot. I want to just shift gears just a little bit because you were in an article with other women as well that are at a very high level and successful, just like you. And you were talking about women leadership. And there was something that they quoted you on that I really liked, that I think a lot of women can resonate with. And you had said in the Asian culture, especially in more patriarchal cultures like Japan or Korea, stereotypes are still pervasive. For example, you are a mom, hence you can't climb the corporate ladder. If you're too driven, then you're labeled as too aggressive. Whereas if you're a male, it is okay and acceptable. Females can't be vulnerable, and vulnerability is a sign of weakness versus a sign of confidence. When I read that, I was like, Yes, I think, obviously each, like you said earlier, each culture kind of has a different thing, but for women, we have heard things of that nature. What do you think it is about you and your abilities that has allowed you to be able to climb this corporate ladder and be at the level that you're at? And also, what are some suggestions that you would have for other women that maybe want to do the same based on kind of what you're talking about here?
Right. I think for the first, maybe let me answer the first question first. I still have lots to learn, as Carrie, I mentioned, but I would say that because of my upbringing, and also what I've learned through working with fantastic leaders, and actually fortunately and coincidentally a lot of male leaders.
Hmm.
um, I've learned to kind of build on my strength, and there are three traits that are quite fundamental in my value system and my DNA. I think first is really about humility, or I would really sum out now in the word empathy.
Hmm.
The second will be really about curiosity, and the third thing is being bold. Bonus for trying new things and bonus for innovation. So these three things are very much in my DNA. And I think these three things also work really well being a marketeer, right?
Yes.
And also being a leader, in some sense. And I kind of form that as kind of my brand and how I lead and my leadership mantra. Why are these three things important? I think empathy is really important because it just, especially now in the world that we're
Hmm.
operating in and through Zoom, it actually enables you to really listen hard and find out penetrating insights that
Yes.
really unlock brand. I think that's one. Curiosity is important because the world of marketing and the world of is changing really, really fast. So how do you continue to keep learning and unlearning and learning and unlearning? And then last but not least, bonus. A bonus, it's really because how I was brought up. I actually was the middle child, a middle child of three girls.
Yeah.
And that kind of formed my competitive streak. So I'm always not afraid to kind of fail. I'm always first to want to try new things.
Hmm.
So I think these three things form a little bit of who am I and actually my brand and also how I actually lead. And going back to the question about how what would I advise
Yeah.
females, fellow females out there, I think being authentic, first is really develop your own voice, know what your strengths are and what your voice is. Second of all is just really be authentic, and don't be afraid. I personally went through a journey of discovery, and also having a self imposter syndrome. But I realized that being yourself, letting your voice heard, and what you can actually heard actually really really important. And one of the convention that I always challenge, which is there's one stereotype, and especially so in the Asian culture, is a weakness to show vulnerability.
Mm.
I don't agree with that. In fact, the ability to show vulnerability and to really demonstrate in occasions with your team to say, hey, actually I don't really know the answer. In fact, it's a sign and a symbol of strength and a sign of symbol of confidence, because I've practiced that and used that a lot, and when I say that in front of my team, or in a key moment of crisis, I find that totally break down barriers.
Yes.
And that's when innovation starts, new ideas starts, because people will be looking up to you and say, hey, actually she's so humble enough and she's so confident enough to say she doesn't know. And then that's where teamwork, collaboration, innovation really starts taking place. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I love that. I think, like you said, this idea of vulnerability can be in a leadership position, just saying, I don't know the answer. And when you hear that as somebody who maybe is not in leadership, there is a deeper connection. You feel like, oh, they're human too. And I'm able to maybe trust them or feel more confident to give my opinion versus, okay, I'm not going to say anything because I think, they're not going to like it, or I'm going to be put down. So it just kind of creates that sense of trust. So I think that's beautifully said, especially like you said, kind of in the professional setting as well. I want to just kind of finish up here with a couple last questions. We talked in the beginning, about how you kind of defined purpose. We're talking about how to use purpose within business. Um, Getting back to you personally, because I think this is something a lot of people go through life, but I have found a lot of people in their 20s for some reason really get in this space where they feel kind of this pressure at like 25 that they have to figure out their purpose and their life path. And as we all get older, we realize like you don't like it
Yeah.
changes, right? And it's never exactly what we think it is. So did you ever feel growing up this pressure to find your purpose? And what was that like? And what is your purpose now for you? And how is that maybe different from what it was?
Yeah, I think I stumbled onto purpose almost like 15 years ago, and I almost like, and well, I was early 30s or end 20s
Mm-hmm.
in itself. I stumbled on it. I didn't wake up one day and literally
Yeah.
say, I need to find my purpose and what my purpose is. It was really through Diageo and the leadership experience that I went through. And obviously, it became very rooted as part of me. And
Yeah.
my purpose has been constantly being renewed and refined, as you get into different life stages, or whether personally and professionally, and it changes. And it's very, very personal. And it's a journey of own discovery. I would say that for me, purpose and continually refining my purpose is part of my DNA. I do that on a regular basis. And after like 3 or 4 years, I will kind of go back and say, hey, does this still represent me? Does it still give me that motivation to wake up every day? Does it help me with my personal life and my daily life? And I think for me now, my personal purpose is it's really about unleashing people's potential, so as to build brands and businesses that impact society and team. And within this, there's an element of what that means for myself, because I'm a big believer of building teams, bring out the best in people, but actually it's also an advice to myself, which is to really unleash my own potential, because I tend to be someone being the middle child and what I was brought up, really high standards, and in the process I'm not accepting my strength and myself. So it's a kind of a reminder of while I'm actually being I'm helping people to shape their potential, seeing their strength, I'm also giving back and taking energy back to actually help unleash my own potential. What can I improve on a daily basis? So this is my current purpose. I think it makes me wake up every day and get excited. It actually guides me through in times when I'm really feeling really low and I'm like, what am I doing? But I would say that purpose is a very deep and personal a journey, and it just needs to continuously being defined and being worked through, on the daily basis.
Yes, continue to evolve. Yeah, I like that. It's not this like one set in stone
No.
thing. It can adjust. Oh, like I said, I was mentioning earlier, I really have been loving what you kind of write on social media, because you talk a lot about this stuff. If people want to kind of read what you're writing, where is kind of the best place to follow some of your work?
I would think LinkedIn. Following on me on LinkedIn will be great.
Perfect. Yeah, you can follow her on LinkedIn. Find her. And like I said, just a lot of her posts and articles she does are really beautifully written about brand and purpose. And the last question I like to ask all of my guests is, what is one word or quote or mantra that you try to live by every single day?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say not really one word or not really a quote, but for me, I would say that, especially very apt to the current world, I would say that in every crisis there's always an opportunity, and in every failure there's always a learning opportunity. So I think that would really sum up a bit of who I am.
So wonderful. I thank you so much for your time and for just sharing your passion, your vulnerability, your thoughts, and just some advice that people can kind of take with them as well. So I thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.